parliamentary elections have at last been set. Previously scheduled to begin on April the 27th, they have now been brought forward to April the 22nd, and that's according to a statement issued by the presidency's online media outlets late Saturday and amid calls by the opposition to boycott. The decision came after members of Egypt's Coptic Christian community had criticised the planned timing of the elections because some voting would have taken place during their Easter holiday. The change in schedule entails date changes in all 4 stages of the anticipated election. President Mohamed Morsi announced the initial election plan on Thursday amid support from Islamist groups, including the Muslim Brotherhood and the ultra-conservative Al-Jama'ah Al-Islamiyah's Construction and Development Party. Opposition forces, on the other hand, have been complaining they were sidelined in talks over setting election laws and a time frame. Mohamed al-Baradei, the founding member of the main opposition bloc, the National Salvation Front, called on Saturday to boycott the elections, saying he will not be part of what he called deception. Before the announcement of the initial election plan, the NSF demanded postponing upcoming parliamentary polls and guaranteeing judicial and international oversight of the upcoming elections to ensure transparency. Now, the NSF, however, has yet to announce its official stance on the elections. The Egyptian Popular Current, led by Nasserist politician Hamdin Sabahi, stated last week that it will boycott the upcoming parliamentary elections regardless of guarantees and in objection to the current quote-unquote undemocratic regime. Sabahi himself, a leading NSF figure, lamented what he described as an attempt by the Muslim Brotherhood to again dominate parliament after President Morsi's Thursday decision to start elections on April the 27th. For his side, Mohammed Zidan, spokesman of the Muslim Brotherhood's Freedom and Justice Party, stressed Saturday that an independent judicial committee will be responsible for overseeing the elections. He also slammed calls to boycott the anticipated elections, saying that the opposition forces who are calling for the boycott believe there is no way they would assume power through ballot boxes, but only through sit-ins, strikes and extreme polarizations. The elections are for the House of Representatives, that's the lower house of the Chamber of Parliament here in Egypt, formerly known as the People's Assembly. Now, this is going to be the second parliament, post-revolution parliament in the country. Let's take a look. That's what we're going to be discussing tonight, looking into detail about what's been happening there, what are the predictions, calls for a boycott, yes or no. That and much more will be discussed later on in the program. But first, a look at some of the stories making headlines here in Egypt. And today saw dozens of protesters in Cairo's Tahrir Square shut down the Mugamma as part of protests against President Mohamed Morsi's call for parliamentary elections in April. Fights broke out between protesters and Mugamma employees, with citizens trying to access services also getting involved. Mugamma security did not attempt to stop the protests. Also today, the parliamentary elections law that the Shura Council passed last week cannot be appealed. That's what the Freedom and Justice Party said, because according to them, its procedures are legal and conform to the Constitution. The FJP said that the opposition boycott of the elections would not affect their legitimacy. This came as Islamist Islam Dastur Party head Mohamed al-Baradei, as I said earlier, after he called for a boycott of the upcoming elections, describing it as going against popular will. A meeting will be held between the Presidential Council and the of the Noor Party on Sunday, that's sometime today, after which the party will decide whether or not it will compete in the House of Representatives elections in April. That's according to a statement by spokesperson Nader Bakar. Bakar said in a statement that the party has concerns over the announced date of the elections, saying that different political parties should have agreed on the timing before elections were announced by the presidency. Let's go over now to Port Said, which entered its 8th day of a mass civil disobedience campaign in response to the killings of protesters during clashes with security forces last month. Groups of demonstrators closed down the Raswa and Nasser customs checkpoints and halted railway movement, while more than 35,000 workers from the governorates were blocked from working in the province's free zone area. And in other news as well, a group of unknown assailants carrying knives attacked and wounded demonstrators protesting against the president in the city of Mahalla on Sunday. The demonstrators have been blocking the railways as well as setting fire to rubber tires on the tracks when the assailants attacked them. The attackers took the demonstrators' megaphones and set a hospital in Shoon Square on fire. Sources did not wish to be identified told the media that shop owners whose businesses were affected by demonstrators blocking the road had hired the attackers. The Public Funds Prosecutor began Sunday investigating a complaint filed against the president's younger son unfairly receiving a job offer for a position to the Egyptian holding company for airports and air navigation. The complaint was filed against the president, Prime Minister Hisham Kandil, Civil Aviation Minister Wael al-Ma'dawi, and the company's chairperson as well. Also today, the foreign cash reserve recession rate may decline by March. That's according to the central bank governor, Hisham Ramiz. The central bank had announced in early February that the reserves had reached $13.6 billion, which would amount to a 16-year low, according to the financial agency Bloomberg. Ramiz told the privately owned paper Al-Shurut that he seeks to preserve a certain amount of cash reserves, not for conditions related to the International Monetary Fund's negotiations with Egypt over the $4.8 billion loan, but because it is a national target for central banks. And with that, we come to the end of the top stories. Let's take a look at the following report highlighting the upcoming parliamentary elections, and then we'll be back with our panel of guests to further discuss that topic. Don't go away.
President Mohamed Morsi announced that the first post-constitution parliamentary elections are to be held starting April. The election process will take place in 4 stages. Runoffs will be held 1 week after each stage. The decree said the new parliament is invited to convene its first session on Saturday on July 6. Many hope the election will mark the start of political stability. The upper house of the Egyptian parliament, the Shura Council, adopted on Thursday the amendments of the Constitutional Court on both the electoral law and the political rights law, and submitted them to President Mohamed Morsi for ratification. The Shura Council approved the amendments to the Electoral Districts Division with the increase in the number of seats in the House of Representatives from 498 to 556 seats, adding an extra 48 seats. The increase also included adding 12 seats to represent Cairo Governorate, 12 seats for Giza Governorate, 6 seats for Alexandria, 6 seats for Aswan, 6 for Qalyubiyya, and 6 for Sharqiyya. Other amendments drawn by the Constitutional Court included changing an article in the law that stipulated that leading officials of ousted President Hosni Mubarak's defunct National Democratic Party, NDP, and deputies of that party in the 2 houses of parliament elected before the 25 January revolution in 2012, which means in 2005 and 2010, must be barred from pursuing political activities, including running in parliamentary and presidential elections for 10 years. The law was amended to state that NDP deputies who were members in any rather than both of the 2 pre-revolution houses of parliament must be stripped of their political rights. The HCC also ruled that the 2 laws granting Egyptian diplomats rather than judges the right to supervise and monitor expatriate voting ran counter to Article 238 of the Constitution, which states that all constitutional declarations that had stated this right in 2012 must be revoked. The HCC also ruled another article giving citizens who had not performed military service the right to run in elections unconstitutional. The HCC further stated that the electoral and political rights laws must detail the conditions necessary to allow licensed civil society organizations to participate in supervising the elections. The same rules, it said, must apply to the media. Meanwhile, a number of opposition parties represented in the National Salvation Front have decided to boycott the elections as long as the preconditions are not met. They include sacking the cabinet and holding talks with the president aimed at